Hey guys, new tutorial here. It's been a while, but I am back and we are creating another simple scene. But it's still pretty cool. Has a nice depth to it. And yeah. This is the result that we will be creating in this tutorial. It's very simple. It is literally just a particle system. It has a bunch of cylinders coming from it. And that's pretty much it. We basically create a couple different size cylinders and then we put them into a particle system with some settings, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, then you get this this cool result that can be used for really anything. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so here we got our default scene. Let's go and start. So, we're going to be using a cylinder. So I'm just going to go to my front view here. I'm going to hit Shift A and cylinder. Now, there was only 6 edges to those to make that pillar type of effect. So, to easily do this, we just decreased the number of vertices to 6. And there we go. That's all we need to do. Now I'm just going to position the origin point of our object to be at the base down here, because this origin point is where it emits from the particle system. So just hit GZ1 and that'll move it up, and place that at the very bottom, and we are good to go. Alright, that's pretty much it. I'm going to scale it down just a little bit here. And now I'm going to scale it up, and I'm going to make a different range of sizes. So we'll make a couple that are smaller. Actually, before we do this, we should do the material, so that's done and out of the way. So we're just going to add in a new material here, and we're going to be mixing it. So add in a mix shader, combining it with a diffuse, there we go, just hit D if you can't find it, and a glossy. Okay, so the coloring for these are going to be a little bit gray, because you can see, you saw in the overall color, this scene was basically gray. We're going to set the roughness to be 0.1, but we're going to make it a lot lower, just like that. So there's some shininess to it, but not a lot. Alright, so now we can make the different range of sizes. This is important. To have that waving effect, it's not all just one size. So just gonna make some more little ones like this. You don't want to go too small to where they're not even seen, but just a nice range. Maybe just start going back up in the middle, and then big one like that. There we go. Alright, so we got all of our different size objects. Let's hit Control G to make them into a group. Okay, so there we go. Alright. Cool, so we got our objects. Let's put them into a particle system. So let's move these to layer 2, and let's make a plane. So I'm just going to scale it up to the grid 4, so that's S, then 8. On the number pad, that'll scale it up to the grid floor. And next we're just going to add in some more vertices, and this is for weight painting, so we can get the particles all in the camera and there's nothing on the outside, but we need more vertices for the weight painting, so just add in some more and you'll be good to go. Alright, so particle system, you can change the type to hair. Check advanced. Alright. Now we are going to be setting up the particle system. So, alright, we're going to set the number to be 5,000. Set it to be random. And let's just go ahead and select our group here. Alright, so you can see they're all on their sides. So that's easily fixed by selecting all of these. Let's go back to this one. Let's deselect the floor. And you're just going to rotate them. Now you don't see anything happening because you actually need to check rotation right there. And there you go. Now they're all up and good to go. Okay, let's set the size here to be a little bit bigger. Okay. And I think 5,000 is a little too much. We do want some holes in there. We don't want it all to be bunched up like that. Speaking of bunched up, it is okay that these are intersecting in here, because it does give it a pretty cool effect of when they collide together. Alright. Just gonna hit Brownian just like once or twice, just to give it a little more randomness. Maybe scale them up a little bit more. Now the waveform is really gonna come into play when you adjust this randomize size. So I'm gonna be setting mine to a 0.4. There we go. That's pretty much it. Now we just need to set up the lighting, and yeah. Okay, so lighting is very simple. It is a plane rotated along the X by 90 degrees. Just gonna scale that up, scale it out a little bit like that. This is gonna be our main source light. No other light is going to be in the scene. So just kind of rotate it down onto the scene like this. And then we're gonna have a little bit of cross lighting like that onto the scene. Alright, that's pretty good. Alright, let's set up our camera. So Control Alt Numpad 0. And we're just gonna go up like this. Hit R, then double tap X to rotate the camera down. Just gonna zoom in just a little bit tighter here. Alright, let's go to the camera settings. Just gonna come back out a little bit more. And if you see that there's too much gap back there, then go ahead and increase the amount, and that'll fix that. Okay. Alright, let me just look over the particle system settings just to make sure we've got everything. Let's go ahead and do that vertex group, because you can see we got some on the outside here that aren't being used. So just go Control T or Control Tab, and we're just gonna paint in here. Do want to get in front here so we have some nice depth of field. Just go to the top, make sure it's okay. It's just a little bit. It's not really anything big, but it is something. Okay, I'm gonna hit O, and we're gonna scale this out to go a little bit past the camera. Okay, like that. It's kind of like that wavy effect, just so it goes off the frame of the camera. And let's go ahead and select the vertex group. Alright, so everything's in there. So you probably could decrease the amount. Let's make that a solid 1. And that's pretty good. Alright, let's do some more camera settings. So we don't need to worry about the clipping. We can see everything in the scene. Just going to use the rule of thirds. It's not really anything to focus on. But speaking of focus, let's go ahead and set that up. So I'm going to set it to f-stop at 0.5. So the lower you make this, the higher the depth of field will be. And let's select the limits. And I'm just going to add it in about the middle of between right there and right there. So about the middle. And that is pretty good. Okay. So we've got the materials for the cylinders. We got our lighting almost. Make sure the world is black. So you just scroll down like that and that'll go to black. And that is pretty much it. Cool. Also, a little tip here. Just in case this might get in the camera's view, you can go ahead and select it to not be in the camera, but it's still casting the light and everything, but it won't show up in the camera, the camera's perspective. Okay, so we got GPU rendering at 1080p. Select border, so it just renders what's inside this camera's view, nothing on the outside. So our preview is good. We'll get to the rendering stuff later. Alright, let's go rendered viewport shading. And I forgot to apply a material to that. Alright. So emission, there we go. So you can kind of see the results here. The strength for our thing is going to be quite high at 25. So 25 is gonna light the scene like that. And there you go. That's pretty much it. We got a little bit of black back there. So again, just rotate to come down. Let me do this out of rendered view here. Here we go. Okay. Maybe just actually come down. Alright. Cool. Cool. So, that's pretty much it. Now we can do a little bit of compositing. So let me just do my render settings here. I think we'll go about, I want to say 800 should be enough. Probably lower is plenty. Full global illumination. And that's good. Cool. Alright, so let's hit F12 to render this out, and I'll come back once it has finished rendering. Alright, so it took about 11 minutes to do, and this is the result. Let's go ahead and hop to the compositor. So control left arrow and control up arrow. Alright, so click on use nodes and backdrop. Okay. Hit V to just zoom your backdrop out like that, and if you hit Control Shift, clicking on the render layer, it'll add in a viewer node. Alright. And if you'll control, you can cut a node like that. Alright, so some pretty simple stuff. I was thinking while I was rendering to experiment with some fog. I don't think I added that in my final render. So we can experiment with that right now, if that's okay with you guys. So adding in a map value. Doesn't change anything, it's already a black and white scene. Check use minimum, use maximum, but we're gonna plug the Z into there. And whoops, just set that to about 0.1. Set the offset to just kind of be at the base down there. Alright, now we're going to mix it. I think I'm seeing the problem. Why I didn't do fog in my scene. Let me just pull that down some. Because when you get really close depth of field, you can see it kind of gets pretty fuzzy with any kind of scene. So you kind of just have to play with the overall brightness for that. But I think it still does a pretty cool effect. It's still adding in some. So you just turn down the use maximum. Just playing with the settings here, getting something good. Yeah, that's cool. Alright, Next up, let's add in a color RGB curve. Let's just bump that brightness up a little bit. It's a little dark. There we go. And filter glare. We can add in the fog glow. About 0.2, maybe 0.3. There we go. So it gets those nice top to those. Okay, cool. You can experiment with another glare node. Leave it on streaks. Threshold 0, fade like that. Streaks 2, color mod. Just gonna do it over the entire scene. Okay. Just increase that, decrease that. Kind of adds in a cool anamorphic lens flare to this scene if you want that. You don't have to do this. It's just something extra. Maybe add in full color to it as well. So then you'll turn that back down like that. Maybe not full color. Let's let that fade out like all the way. And turn it back up. A lot of tweaking here. There you go. That's kind of cool. So if you do an animation, you'd have anamorphic flares following the camera, so it look pretty cool. Honestly, I think that's it. I'll then add in a little bit of chromatic aberration. So something pretty small, maybe 0.05. Yeah, there we go. It's not too bad. About 0.002 should be good. Alright, let me just add in my vignette real quick. You don't really need it for this scene because it's already black and white and kind of already have a natural vignette down here. But I'm still going to add it because it'll add in just that little bit of extra coolness. Alright, I've walked you through this before if you've watched my tutorials before. If not, I'll go back through. I know I'm really speeding through this, but don't worry, I'll go back through. This is, I think, the maybe the oldest fashioned way of doing this, but it's the only way that I know how to do vignettes. So, okay, so basically, you add in a lens distortion node. You set the distort all the way to 1. So that will bend your scene. Then you add in a math node. Set the type to greater than. Plug it into the top. Set the value to 0. Then you plug it into a blur node into the image port. Set the type to fast Gaussian. Relative X. And 30 by 30, and that will now blur off the edges to give you that vignette. Then you just mix the effect with the scene. So you're going to plug this all the way into the top one and your vignette into the bottom. Set the type to multiply, and then this factor amount becomes the amount of vignette that you have. So 1 is going to be full vignette, 0 is going to be no vignette. So I set mine to 0.5 because I don't want it to be that strong. And that is pretty much it. Cool, so we went from this render result here to the compositor. There we go, guys, that's it. That's the tutorial. That's how you create the scene. Pretty simple. Tried to keep this as short as possible because it's very easy to create, and you can take this and do whatever you want with it. I took a little advantage of this scene and created this scene. It is a Lego type scene. Got these models off the internet thanks to people, and eventually I would like to make this an animation in the future. So you have this cool scene, going with Lego characters fighting, you know, injustice type stuff. So that'll do it for me. Thank you for watching the tutorial. Hopefully you learned something from it. And I will see you in the next one, whenever that might be. Alright, you guys have a good day. Thanks for watching.